All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Build Show podcast. That's right, my weekly time to get together with you guys and go deep. I got a really fun topic, and I've got a fabulous guest, one of my favorite builders in the studio, all the way from Dallas, Texas, down here to Austin, to podcast with me, Brent Hall. We're going to be talking today specifically about a project called the Italian Revival. Am I saying that right, Brent?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This is a 150-year-old. How old is this project?
It's a 120-year-old.
Okay, 120-year-old house that I would call an old school mansion.
Sure.
Absolutely gorgeous old house that Brent and his team have been working on for a year and a half or so, that will actually be part of the Build Show Live VIP pass that you can tour. But I want to dig into what he's doing there, what he's seen there that's interesting. We're going to be piggybacking a little bit on our last podcast, which was talking about durability, things that last. How do we remodel a house and keep its integrity and keep its historic significance, but bring it out to modern standards? And of course, we're going to talk a little bit about Build Show Live. With that being said, from the Risinger Build Studios in Austin, Texas, let's get going. All right, guys, before we jump in with Brent, I want to say a big thanks to our podcast sponsor, Aquor. If you're not familiar with these guys, I remember seeing them at the International Builder Show maybe 15 years ago. And what they had was a stainless steel hose bib that looked like it was straight off a yacht that was beautiful. And I'd never seen a hose bib that looked pretty and that was frankly made out of stainless steel before them. And I'll be honest, it took me 2 or 3 years before I could put one on a project, because these are not $30 hose bibs you get off the shelf at your local home center. These are $100 or plus. They're super well made. They're super beautiful. And these days, they've got a million options. They have a hot, cold hydrant that came out this year. They've got all kinds of different black, white, stainless steel. But what's interesting about these guys is they make them in different sizes as well. So if you're in the north, you're used to what they call a frost-free hose bib, meaning it shuts off into the house. But in Texas, we're not used to that. Sometimes we don't have a big band joist cavity to shut a hose bib off, 12 inches into the wall. So they make them in various sizes, from maybe as small as 2 or 3 inches all the way up to maybe 12 inches or more. So depending on where they're located, where you're located, the different options you want, they've got something for you, and they are really nice. Now, I've had them on my personal house now for 4 years, and I got to tell you, they work just like I put them in 4 years ago. They're absolutely beautiful. Now, I'm a big fan, though, to Brent's point, of remodelability, or Brent talks about this a lot. How do we service things? I put mine in a location that I could service them, because I don't have a basement that I could just look up and go, oh, there's my hose bib connection. Let me put a new one in. I actually put a OD panel in, basically a panel location for all of my Aquor hose bibs. So in 30 years, when I need to replace it or I need to service it, all I do is I just figure out where that service panel is, pop that panel off, and boom, I've got access to the back of it. So that would be my choice. But go check them out if you have not used them before. Really, really nice products. AQUOR is the name of the product. Brent Hall, let's talk about your Italian Revival project.
Yeah, so this was a 1908, 04, somewhere in that range, mansion that was built kind of on the bluff. Fort Worth is on the Trinity River. There's a bluff that goes around the city and downtown. And so on the west side, there's this bluff view. This guy built this house. He was a banker in Fort Worth. The Baldridge House is what it is. And
that was his last name.
That
Baldridge.
was his last name. And there's a bank vault inside the house, part of his deal. But he built this like you would build a building downtown. It's solid concrete, and so there's concrete floors in the attic, right? So you're thinking 1908. To do that, you're bringing in a commercial crew to do that, I would think.
Do you think it was a commercial contractor that built it?
I don't know, but I just don't know how else they would have done it, because the quality of build that they did, it's solid masonry, even interior walls. A lot of them are structural clay tile and brick. And
when you say solid masonry, what you mean is that the walls were actually brick. There's not wood structure.
Correct. There's no wood framing. Yeah. Right. There's some interior walls, right? But there's there's no furring out for insulation either. It's just, there's some blocking because there's some trim and things like
Is
that.
it like triple? I looked at this with you, and I think we did a short video on it. Is it like triple wide masonry, something like that?
Yeah. And so it is an incredibly well-built house that, because it's on the west side of Fort Worth, which is kind of the wealthier part of Fort Worth, it's been remodeled a number of times over the last probably 40 years, sometimes successfully, sometimes not
as much.
And so we are trying to fix that. And the front of the house is amazing. I remember when we were out there looking at it, just the way they did the eaves and the way they did the bracketing and the blocking and the panels. It's stunning. It's really beautiful. So very well designed. Top architect in Fort Worth, Sanguinet and Stats. They were a very important regional architect. And so anyway, it's an amazing house. And so we're very lucky. We got a great client who wants it right and is allowing us to do a lot of good things. And so windows that were taken out, we're putting back in original windows. Just the quality of build that they're asking for, which is really the standard that was set in 1908, they're going back with. So it's pretty special.
It's a fascinating house. Brent and I got a tour, and I shot a video that was like a promo for Build Show Live that I think you probably know this already, but this is the tour house. You actually get to tour this on Thursday, October 16th, if you buy the VIP pass. The VIP pass for Build Show Live is a little bit more expensive. It's $1,500, but you get a full, basically 24 hours of fun before the show actually starts. But what you get is 150 of you at a time will get to visit this house with Brent and I to get a behind the scenes tour. The other 150 will be at the other house, and then we're going to flip flop. So you're going to get plenty of time. And what's interesting about it is you're going to see multiple phases. Like looks like you're almost done and ready to shut off some parts of the upstairs, right?
Yeah, they're in final paint right now. So, trims in. There's a few decorative things that need to happen, but it's mostly, I would say we're 90% complete upstairs.
Yeah.
And then we're coming downstairs and probably be in the basement by the time everybody gets there. I say that it's getting closer.
Yeah.
I mean, it was,
the basement's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
You actually can get a chance to walk into the original bank vault that was in the property, which is pretty neat.
No, it's neat. So, but I mean, it's coming up here in less than 2 months. We're just right at 2 months.
By the time we publish this, it might be a month away. I'm not sure when our publish date is.
So, anyway, yes, we're going to be working on a bunch of very fun things. And so it'll be, hopefully it'll be something that will be enlightening for people that and I think the juxtaposition of having a new house that you can tour and then this old house, I think there'll be some great contrasts, good and bad. And so,
does it make you want to build another house that's brand new like this one in terms of structure? Here's a quick story for you. Maybe a couple years ago, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the guy's name. There's a builder who's in like Atlanta or Georgia who still to this day builds double or triple wide solid masonry builds where it's brick in and brick out. No insulation, just full brick shells. I'm assuming a more standard wood roof. I don't know for sure. But I remember reading his book and digging into it for a while and thinking, man, this would be really cool, like a mass masonry building. I think would actually work pretty well in our climate.
Yeah.
After seeing this house and how well it lasted the last 125 years, have you ever thought about doing that?
Absolutely. And I think probably there's a little bit of ignorance on my part of exactly where does that start? Where does that stop? How do, the foundation's different, just how you do that. And this is one of the things I love about building old houses is like, how did they do this, right? How did they put this together? How did they engineer this? How did they, how would you manage the floor heights if you're doing a concrete floor and on sleepers and managing all the finished floor heights and getting everything to come out right? It'd be a great challenge. And so, it'd be a great challenge as opposed to slab foundation and, sticking, stick frame up.
You're the first builder, Brent, that I ever saw doing stucco on block.
Yeah.
And I remember visiting a house with you a couple years ago, also in Fort Worth, that you were doing standard kind of zip framing with 2x interior and insulation, and then at least a 1 inch or more air gap. And then you were laying up, I can't remember if it was 4 inch or 6 inch
4 inch
CMU,
block,
4 inch CMU, and then stuccoing the outside. And I was like, what? I've never seen this before. Like, this makes a lot of sense. And you said, yeah, Matt, for years we would build brick facades, and then later someone would stucco it, and that was kind of the evolution. And the reason why those stucco buildings did just fine is because you had this 1 inch air gap. And so why wouldn't we just use, let's say, CMU instead of brick, which is just because it's a little less expensive, and then stucco it? Now I got an air gap. Now my wood framing has an inch of gap between it. Any water that soaks that facade can get out. This makes a lot more sense than putting stucco on a new building where it's right up against the wood. And, we've seen plenty of failures in Texas that way.
100%. And reason why we do that now is because I've had failures, right? I put it on a garage I built for these people on an historic house. We did an additional garage addition, and we did the framing and stucco right on the sheathing. And, it was probably 8 or 10 years later, it started failing. And so I was just like, shoot, what was I thinking? Why didn't I look at that historic house
and take a lesson
10 feet away and go, I need to build it like that if I want it to last a long time.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to build that successfully with that kind of framing without, adding that block on there. And it obviously it adds cost, but going back to our earlier conversation, it's also, I know it's going to last a long time.
I got a fun building that I just visited a week ago that my engineer's building for his personal house. This guy, Whit Smith, he's building a house in the hill country for his family. And he took your videos and your idea and said, I really like this, but what if I do a 6 or an 8 inch CMU, and I actually fill the cells, every other cell or every whatever cell, every 3 feet, add rebar, drill some rebar into the brick lug, and he put like an 8 inch brick lug in or something like that. And then he has an overhang on the house that caps the top of the CMU, where he's got a design where his framer basically drills through it's monopoly framed. So instead of the wall going up and then the roof hits, it overhangs with trusses by like 6 or 8 inches. Then he drills up into the trusses and has a bolt hanging down. And then at the top of the CMU wall, he has a poured bond beam that allows that bolt to connect to the CMU. And if, in effect, it's a reverse CMU house. Instead of building a CMU structure and then furring on the inside, he built a full CMU structure on the outside out of various widths, 6, 8. He even has some 16-inch CMU because he's got a couple of parapet walls to the sky, and he didn't want the metal ugly cap. He wanted just masonry to the sky. So then he's stuccoing the whole outside, and some places you'll see this like 16-inch thick stucco CMU'd wall to the sky. But all of that is exterior to his envelope. And then the zip framing, which is structural framing, is to the inside, and they're tied together. Isn't that fascinating?
So the total thickness is what?
Well, he's got some parts of the wall are as little as 6-inch CMU. Some are as fat as 16-inch CMU.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me. It reminds me of the building, and I did the thing on Alice Beach down in Florida, and the way they build down there is, it's a lot of concrete block and a lot of bond beams, and you're just like, actually, this is pretty slick the way they're doing this.
Makes a lot of sense.
It makes a lot of sense. And so, I get excited about stuff like that.
He told me, this is not a beach house, but if he was building on the beach and a 2x4 comes curdling at his house, it'll turn into a matchstick when it hits that CMU. Now, if it hits a window, it's going through.
Right.
But he said, if we got if I had put impact rated windows on this house, I probably could survive a tornado pretty well on this house.
Yeah.
It's not 100%. It's not designed for that, but it's designed for a very heavy duty use case.
Well, I mean, to our earlier conversation, that I think is a house that lasts hundreds of years, right? Because, unlike the example that you were telling from Joe, that is a wall that even if it gets exposed is still, standing.
Yeah.
And so that to me is a good 500-year solution.
Yeah. I mean, that CMU wall that's 6, 8, 10 inches thick, when it gets wet, it's not degrading in any way, shape, or form. And we got a full 1 inch plus. He actually had like 1.5 inch air gap on his. He wanted a thicker air gap. So he bucked his windows out so you wouldn't see the gap between the windows and the CMU. And he's got a brick mold design so he could pull it out later if he wants to as well, which I thought was really smart. Yeah. They're just off the shelf windows. They were Pellas, which I'm sure will be great. But if he wants to replace them in 50 years, he's got a brick mold. He can just pull them out and still have access to the zip, which I did in my house. I have a brick facade on my wood framed house. And wherever I had brick, I purposely did a fatter brick mold than normal, a 2-inch brick mold. So I've got room to get that nailing flange plus another 1/2 inch. So if I want to retape, reseal, whatever, I knew those windows are coming out someday. Yeah. And I did not use a window that I love in a few places in the house that I'm already thinking about replacing here at year 4. So I know that I'll be able to get to them.
Yeah, no, I love that. And so, I mean, back to your original question, for our client, when we try to talk them into things or try to explain things, that would be something that I would, I have to put on my selling shoes to say, this is why this is better. This is why this is important. This is why. And they would have to come to me. I would want them to come to me and say, we want to build a house that's going to really last that long. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, then we need to do this. And then you can do it. And then you've got the client's blessing. And then, you're really building something that's special
and going to last.
Going to last a long time.
It would be really fun if someday your grandchildren get into the building world and your granddaughter or grandson says something like, yeah, my grandpa Brent, boy, he built a great house. It's been really fun to do this kitchen remodel or whatever in this house that my grandpa either built brand. I think what's fascinating is that you guys at Whole Homes, Whole Millwork up in Fort Worth build brand new houses that look 100 years old and take 115-year-old houses and make them look brand spanking new again. And they still have the soul of an old home, but they have the heart of a new home, and the craftsmanship is the same.
I feel like that's the goal, and I love that part of it. I was just listening to a podcast. It's called the Country House Podcast, and it's an English podcast, but they were interviewing a guy who was 8th generation builder.
Oh my gosh.
8th generation. Wow. Wouldn't that be kind of a cool heritage? I mean, you were talking about your son wanting to get into building now. I think that would be really special. Just like, you're describing, what a great legacy you've got going on here to have your kids carry it on.
It'd be really fun.
My dad started those conversations about energy efficiency and building better and, heavy duty, and just, that was my, dad or my granddad.
I would love it.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. As a side note, by the way, if you don't know, Brent is giving this year's keynote at Build Show Live. The show's in Dallas, which is kind of your backyard. Yep. You build more in Fort Worth than Dallas, but you're all over that general area.
Both now. Yeah.
And the title of your keynote, Build Like It Matters, Craftsmanship, Legacy, and the Soul of the Trades. How about that for a title? I'm excited.
It's a high bar.
That's a high bar, dude. That's an hour of passion right there.
Can't wait.
I can't wait. I'm going to give the intro for 5 minutes. I'm going to say the opening prayer, and then Brent's going to have the stage. This is for Friday morning. So even if you buy the $100-ish, I want to say it's $150 to go to the show, you might find a discount out there or lower. You're going to get to see Brent's keynote. But if you want to see Brent the day before at the job site and hear him in the morning, he's going to be kicking off a morning of master class with Brent Hull, Rediscovering the Lost Art of Building. Let's talk about that for a minute, because you've actually given this presentation before, and we're going to be kind of doing the shortened version of it. Yeah. But what does that look like? So
it's based on our thing that we've done, Master Builder University. And the Master Builder idea is that, 200 years ago, William Buckland, Asher Benjamin, they were the master builders. And master builder, architect, the word architect means master builder. Mm-hmm. And so arca is chief, and then tech is the build piece. And so, in America, you don't really have named architects, and certainly the AIA isn't even around until the late 19th century, right? The 1800s. I think the first architecture school is Columbia or MIT. It's 1881. So what happens before then? Well, you have these guys that knew how to craft, knew how to build, and knew how to design. And so the Master Builder University is, what I think the one of the chief things that builders ignore and have relegated to other people unnecessarily is design. And I want them to be able to understand these components, understand things that builders didn't understand 200 years ago, and still incorporate those. Because if you understand the classical tradition, you know how to build mantles, you know how to build door headers, you know what the molding sizes are in a room, you know how to lay out a room. And so you aren't reliant on an architect. And today, most architects are being designed in a modern system, and they're not really taught a classical system. So, I'm trying to share that information, and that's what I'll do in a kind of shortened format, really kind of just saying, look, guys, here's the advantage of understanding, the width of a column and what a column should look like and how to build a porch, and, so that it looks beautiful, so that it's not a mess. And so
I'm going to want to come to the long version after I see the short version. I have a feeling. How often are you doing that long version?
We're doing it once a year. We're doing it again this year in September.
Like a month away.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So September 24th, 25th. It's a 2-day. There's designers, architects, and builders in there. But it's going through these ideas that, I feel like it's the lost art of building. I feel it's like, the height of a chair rail, why isn't it 36? It's almost never 36. And yet people think, well, no, it's always 36 because you measure the back of a chair. And no, that's not true. So it's just things like that will be, walking people through some ideas that I think will challenge them, and I'll hopefully encourage them to take on some things that a lot of people have ignored.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. I can't wait. Guys, come see Brent and I both at Build Show Live. You can get tickets at buildshowlive.com. But this year is going to be especially fun for me, having Brent do the keynote, having Brent do a shortened version of Masterclass on the VIP pass. And then I think you're teaching some classes as well during the show as well on Friday and Saturday. Is that right?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. There's going to be 50 programs, though. We actually have 50 education programs taught by all of our 15 contributors, including Jordan Smith, who's brand new back to the Build Show. I worked with Jordan for a long time, and I'm super thrilled to have him back. But if you want to hear more about Brent, don't forget, Brent is podcasting on a very regular basis, Passion for Craft, which if you just type Passion for Craft in your Amazon, or not Amazon, in your Apple Podcasts or all the normal podcast locations.
In fact, Richard McMurray, at Finnish Carpentry TV, who's going to be a contributor soon.
Fabulous.
He's the one who started it with Jackson and I. Jackson's my son, who's studying at North Bennett Street. So the way it was set up is that you had an apprentice, a journeyman, and a master talking about craft. And so Richard left last year. He's come back this year. So it's fun to see him. He's definitely transformed as a businessman, as a craftsman, and he talks about that. Jackson's growing and learning kind of about the business, and I'm sharing all these different stuff. So we try to talk about, all of our businesses and all of our training and all of our learning, because a lot of people aren't able to go to North Bennett Street, but so how do you learn? How do you grow in this industry? And we talk about that. But
Passion for Craft needs to be on your regular podcast lineup so that you can download that knowledge, which I think Brent and I have been very specific about. And of course, we love that it helps our reputation and our businesses, but all the Build Show Network contributors, and really especially Brent, really feel like we want to pass on our knowledge, and we have this desire for the industry to get better. And Brent and I are a little different in what we talk about and how we talk about it, but we're very, very passionate and similar with having the next generation get what we've got, so that you can not make some of the mistakes
100%,
that we've made,
100%.
and so that our industry gets bigger and better. as a side note, when I married my wife 26 years ago this month, her dad was a doctor and found out she was marrying a builder and was like, wah, wah. Like, really? You're marrying a builder? Like, I was really hoping you'd marry a lawyer, a doctor, you know, somebody that at least has a PhD kind of thing. And I've always had a good ego. Like, it didn't bother me per se, but it was a little bit of an ego hit for me. Like, oh man, you know, like he doesn't respect me in my business, right? And that's changed. We have a great relationship today. But his first impression of me was like, oh, he's a dirty builder. And I think one of the things that I'm passionate about, and Brent is too, is like, let's elevate our craftsmanship and our reputation. When we build better houses, when we build houses that we're proud of and that our clients love, people come to the parties at those houses. And actually, one of the ways I met Brent was because my cousin in Fort Worth lives in a house that was an old house that she had remodeled or refurbished, whatever the right term is, by Brent. I'm talking about Lee's house.
Yeah.
That I walked through and was like, oh my gosh, this house is incredible, Lee. What is this? What is this? Who did this? This guy named Brent Hall. Who is Brent Hall? Brent Hall's on Discovery Channel. Yeah, this is like 2015 or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I can't remember how I met you the first time, but I was like, this dude's incredible. I saw your work. I saw you on TV. I can't remember. Do you remember the first time we talked?
I don't because of the story I always tell is that we kind of met in little bits. Like we just hey man, yeah. And then we'd see each other 6 months later, and then we see each other 6 months later.
I think that's right.
And I remember your YouTube thing growing, because I remember I think when we first met, you had like 25,000 subscribers. Yeah. And then the next time it was like 125. And then it was 250. And you were talking about how that had grown. So, what's another funny thing is that my dad, when I went to North Bennett Street, because he was a doctor, maybe doctors are the problem.
Maybe doctors are the problem. Those snobby doctors.
He was embarrassed to tell friends that that's what I was doing, that I was basically going to be a carpenter. Mm-hmm. And it was later that one of his friends go, boy, I think that's really brave. I think that's amazing that your son did that. I would have loved to have done that. Mm-hmm. And my dad was like, oh, wait, maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. And of course, things are fine now. But there was a time that there was that deal. And I think, like you said, there is where
we look down on trades and trades education. And we've all but gotten rid of it in America practically.
And don't get me on a rant, but I think the college system's broken, and I think 100%. The trade school system is having a revival and needs even more of it. Yeah. And so anyway, I'm a huge fan, and again, like you said, it's important that the reason I'm doing the master builder is because I don't want the builder to go on and do the job, the trim coper to go to a job and just be handed, hey, build this. Hey, I want him to be a part of that conversation, him or her, to be a part of those conversations. Is go, well, here's another idea to make this better. Here's how this is going to work. Here, leading those conversations as opposed to we'll just get Joe to do it. He'll figure it out or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
I want that.
100%.
I want that for us as an industry. So we should be leading those conversations.
By the way, at Build Show Live, we've got several sponsored spots for trades teachers that have been given a full VIP free pass to come and pass on that knowledge and that craftsmanship.
Yeah, in fact, Brock from North Bennett Street came last year and he loved it. And
he's coming again this year.
Oh, good. That's awesome. He's great. So,
and I think he's bringing a peer as well. Yeah, awesome. Same with my buddy Adam, who's in Pittsburgh teaching inner city students.
Nice.
And I think we also have what's the high school trades teacher in Kansas City? I'm totally blanking on his name. I'm sorry. I just texted with you yesterday and I can't remember your name all of a sudden.
What is this thing?
Oh, I can't think of it. Anyways, we got several that are coming. Good. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. Dallas, October 16th through the 18th. That's a Thursday through Saturday. It's meant for the really inexpensive passes to be really affordable, all the way up to the VIP pass for the boss who can make the $1,500 investment to come. We got a lot of cool stuff this year, including one really fun thing in particular that I think is going to be cool. On Friday after the show closes, you may not know about this, Brent. When the show closes, we've got like a happy hour going on that's for everybody there. But then if you have the VIP pass or you get the $50 add-on, There's like a block party tailgate happening after the show closes on Friday with food and with beer. That's going to be a big hangout that we might have 1,000 or 2,000 people out or more who are hanging out after the show to get to know each other, to swap stories, to find out how I can follow you on Instagram, all those things. We're really trying to make this a community thing and a movement that builds and builds over time. So I hope that you guys will join Brent and I at buildshowlive.com for tickets.
Love it
this year.
It's great.
Passion for Craft is his podcast. Hull Homes, Hull Millwork is his Instagram. And of course, you can see more of Brent's 5 years of work on the buildshow.com. Hit the hamburger menu if you're new to our site, and you'll see Build Experts, and you'll see all our experts. You drop down to see Brent Hull on there. And you kind of let the cat on the bag with Richard, but we have some big stuff happening besides just Richard.
Yeah.
We won't even say the rest of the names. So we have several other people that you probably know. They're going to be joining the Build Show, and their content's going to be on our website as well very, very soon. So we'll make some big announcements this fall on that. A lot of cool stuff happening. Guys, if you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. New content here every single Friday. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Build Show podcast.